Welcome back to another episode of Money Talks with Dad.
NextGen.
Hey, Toby.
Hey, Dad.
So last week we ended with the talk on budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I had mentioned at the end of it, we typically do a zero sum where we move money into savings.
Mm-hmm.
And since we were running out of time, I said, let's stop there.
Yeah, savings is it's a bit of a big word for me. I've never really been a big saver.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm at a point in my life where it's not just me, I have my wife, but we also have a lot of plans for our future and obviously just necessities. And so where do I start with savings?
Yeah, so before we started, you said, and this is where I said, well, we need to just record this.
Mm-hmm.
You said your number one priority right now is what?
Getting a house.
And you called that short-term savings.
Yeah, because we'd like to get a house in the next few years.
And your sister who owns a house, and I kind of chuckled.
Yeah, I know houses are expensive.
So, and I understand to you guys, that seems like a short-term need, but true short-term savings, and I kind of touched on this last time without going into details, is your number one goal is to create an emergency fund.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talked about budgeting, we said, okay, you're going to take 3 months, put it in categories so you know this is absolutely what we have to have every month. So then you can make sure you're working enough hours to cover that, right?
Yeah.
Anything above that is savings, so that's good. But your emergency fund should at a minimum be 3 months of whatever your total spending was.
Mm-hmm.
So if your total spending was $3,000 for those 3 months, you guys need to make a goal of, we want $3,000 set aside in a savings account that is for emergencies.
Mm-hmm.
Because what if one of you guys gets sick and you can't work for 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
You have to have money somewhere. You know, what if, you know, we touched on last time, your cat needs surgery, or, you know, you get in a car wreck and you have to cover your deductible, or whatever it is. You need that money set aside, because if you go back to episode 1, when we talked about credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have that emergency savings, guess what's very tempting?
Just use your credit card.
Yep, and start paying 15, 18% interest.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to pay that off. So your true short-term savings is an emergency fund. I used to always just say, well, I call it a life fund, because you'll learn life happens. Just when you think you're getting ahead, something's going to happen. And as you have kids, something's going to happen every month.
Yeah.
Like, you know, urgent care copays are very expensive, as I think you guys have learned as well. So that's your shortest savings. So every piece of excess you have every month should go into a separate savings account that is, one, easy to get to, but not so easy that it's automatically funneling into your checking account. You want to be able to at least have to go on the app and move money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have a savings account that, because I mentioned last time, we go on a zero-sum budget. So if there's a month where we have excess spending, it taps into our linked savings account.
Oh, the overdraw safety?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not where your emergency fund goes. Your emergency fund has to go to one that can't just automatically be tapped.
Yeah.
You want to physically go in and be like, okay, here goes $500. And then, because now your goal is, again, if you're $1,000 a month as you're spending, you need $3,000 minimum in there. When you guys get into school, you might want 6 months, because you're working a little less when you're in school full time.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 to 6 months is a general goal of your shortest term savings emergency fund. Okay.
Yeah.
After you get to that, you start running into different categories, and you guys have some pretty good, reliable vehicles, and that was on purpose. You spent more money ahead of time, but now it's something you can hopefully drive for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I always encourage people, if you have a car that's more than 5 years old, your next bucket of savings should be my next car fund.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the average cost of a new car is now $50,000. A used car is like $32,000. That's a lot of money. That's like literally a down payment on a house.
Yeah.
And so it's Dave Ramsey. I don't know if your generation even listens to Dave Ramsey. The millennials definitely grew up on hearing Dave Ramsey, and he'd be like, never have auto debt. Well, that's sometimes impossible, especially when a used car's $32,000 or a new car's $50,000. The problem is when you use too much debt, because interest rates where they are right now, the average car payment is now $750. And most car places want you to finance because they're making money on financing fees. Mm-hmm. And they'll even allow you, say your trade-in is worth $6,000, but you still owe $8,000. They'll be like, just take that extra $2,000 and put it on your next loan. So you are literally leaving with a loan bigger than the cost of your car.
Yeah.
And so people just get further and further behind. So your second tier savings beyond emergency fund is what I call the next car fund. So even if it doesn't get up to the $32,000 to buy a decent used car, you at least have a huge down payment, so you're borrowing a lot less money. Because once you have a car loan, guess where that funnels into in your budget?
And the monthly spending.
Yeah. So say your car loan's $300, you now have to find $300 extra per month to pay for your car. So then it takes away from your next tier over savings, which is kind of where you're getting at, is your big picture goals. Mm-hmm. So I don't call them short term. Like you guys are like, I want a house. I get it. Your big picture goals are the big savings. And so that should be something away. Like you have a money market account that would take a couple days to get money pulled over into your checking account on purpose. Mm-hmm. That money market or a high yield savings account or something outside of your checking account or your bank is your big picture savings. Does that make sense?
It does.
So what's your top goal?
My top goal is to have a 3-month emergency fund.
Yep. And that can be, somewhat linked, but not auto linked. Mm-hmm. Your next savings account.
Try and save up enough money to be able to buy a newer used car when we need to.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah.
And then what do we call your
the biggest item is a house.
Yeah. And so that's your big picture savings.
So I do have a question. When you have that excess at the end of the month, do you just fill it in that line? Like you fill it emergency fund, car fund. Like once that car fund is to a certain amount, you start filling up your house fund. So you don't even put any into a house.
So some people they'll split it. Like you guys are in a situation where, barring just an engine blowing up, you have cars that should last you another 10 years.
Yeah.
But if an engine blows, then of course you're kind of, because I don't know if Kaylee's is under warranty. It might be still.
Well, it's a Hyundai, so.
They have a long warranty.
Yeah.
So, unlike the fix or repair daily that you're driving.
Ha ha.
But anyways, you guys, some people will say, well, I'm going to split it 50-50. My emergency fund is full. I have $300 extra. I'm going to put $150 into my car fund, $150 into my big picture, which is your house fund. So you can split that up. From there, the only thing we haven't touched on real quickly, and unfortunately you're not eligible because you work for a small company owned by your dad. IRS does not allow us to contribute to your 401k as a company. But if you do have a job where there is a 401k, I know it sounds weird at your age for a 19 to 25-year-old, but if they're putting free money into your 401k, make sure you're trying to get that. A lot of times they'll say, well, we'll put 3% of what you make into there. We'll match that. So that's literally a 100% return on your investment. Mm-hmm. If it's a Roth 401k, that's even better because when you take it out when you're getting ready to retire, there's no taxes. But that's long term. But if you do have a 401k at your employer and they do match, you should try to at least find ways to do it. The other tip, we've talked about a zero-sum budget. The other thing I've encouraged people to do is put savings at the top of your budget. And at your guys' age, 10 or 15% of your income automatically goes into savings.
Mm-hmm.
And then say, well, we're going to work off of 85% of what we made. That way you're always saving for your big picture. That's the only way you're going to be able to buy a house in 3 years, is if you're immediately saving and then working off a smaller chunk of money. That way, if you get a raise or you work more hours, you're like, okay, we made, $300 this week. What would that be? $35 is going into savings. Automatically 15% into savings. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So they say pay yourself first. Well, that's a way you work on less money so you can reach your big picture goals sooner.
All right.
So I don't know what we'll talk about next episode, but
yeah.
We should probably call it good.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. Wait.